What is up, guys? It is your boy once again with another video. Welcome back to the channel. Today, as you can see, lights turned off in the background. I just have my ring light in the front. I think it looks better that way. And today we're gonna go through training adaptations and actual training. How should you train when you bulk or you're in off season, whatever you want to call it, versus how you should train when cutting or dieting, even if it's a bodybuilding show, even if it's for lifestyle purposes, whatever your reason is. I witnessed that right now my creativity, based on my own experiences during prep, it's that much better in like finding videos to talk about, because like I experienced some things during prep myself that I can actually help you guys learn something about the process itself of dieting. And like I've also bulked in my life, so I know how that is as well. So yeah, right now I find myself thinking of more videos than I actually am able to do, whereas before prep I didn't have as many ideas for videos as of now. So anyways, everything's going well prep wise, and yeah, let's get right into the video. So bulking versus cutting training edition. So first of all, I want to begin with some things. There's three main things that you can do to optimize muscle growth or muscle maintenance or whatever that is. There's three variables that you can actually affect, which are sleep, nutrition, and training. So in a bulking phase, in an off season, you have all of these variables nailed. I mean, depending on your lifestyle, you might not have them nailed, but it's a period when if you live in a lifestyle, to sort of say, you can have those variables nailed. So you're in a caloric surplus, which will ultimately help you gain muscle mass during training. Your recovery is at its best because you sleep and you are in a caloric surplus, which makes you recover better. So the recovery is not only sleep, it's the food itself. And yeah, your training, because of these other two variables, it can be as intense and as hard as it can get. Meaning that, of course, volume is going to start low. Whenever you actually program, if you make a program yourself, like a training program, be sure to start low and then get progressively higher. But what I mean by that is not like progressively overload only in all exercises. Yes, of course, your aim is to do that. But I mean like adding in sets, which is still progressive overload, or even more exercise, or even more reps, or this sorts of stuff. Just do it progressively. Don't start on ultra high volume in your off season, and then, because you might witness that your recovery is impaired and it actually gets worse and worse and worse, and you're gonna need deloads often. Yeah, and you're not gonna feel as well. You're gonna feel lethargic after training. You're gonna feel that you have energy only for training and nothing else during the day. And yes, it might happen on an off season as well. It doesn't really matter. It does matter that you are on a surplus, but you can still achieve that fatigue during an off season. So what I suggest you do in an off season is start low volume wise, keep the intensity as high as you can, which means to actually go as close to failure as you can. Use as much load with proper form and proper technique as you can. Focus on the basics, which is, of course, you're going to have your accessory exercises, let me take these off, your isolation exercises, but focus on the compounds. Yeah, you might not squat or bench or deadlift, but you need to do some variation of that. If you understand me, like if you don't squat, you can still hack squat. If I don't know, if you're not deadlifting, you can still do an RDL or a stiff leg deadlift. Like, you just don't do all those crazy, like, really new era kind of exercises and never actually go through the basics, especially if you're a beginner. So I definitely recommend you to do some compound movements as your basics, even if that doesn't mean to do it like with a free bar, like a proper squat, let's say, because I don't do a proper squat. But focus on these basic movements. That these are the ones that are going to make you grow, and these are the ones that you can actually progressively overload more. So volume wise, as I said, start low and progress with your recovery. So witness if you're recovering properly with this amount of volume, meaning sets and reps in each workout, and with the days that you're training, then you can add some more sets or you can add another exercise, but be slow and progressive with it. Yeah, that was pretty much the off-season / bulking phase summed up. It's not much complicated. Just do the basics and get stronger and get better at doing all these exercises, and you'll see gains because you're in a caloric surplus, and you also, if you sleep well, you're recovering pretty decently out of all that volume. But now, going into a diet phase or a prep phase or whatever you want to call it, depending on your goals, of course, things kind of change a bit. In a diet phase, however long that might be, to me, the best recommendation is to keep the intensity as high as possible, but also make sure your form is 100% there, and you're not actually sacrificing form in certain exercises. You still keep the same exercises in, but make sure you don't sacrifice the form. And sometimes you might even see yourself like living like those 50-50 reps in the tank. Like, there's some reps that you're like, could I get this? Could I not get this? Sometimes on a diet phase, depending on how long and how deep you're in a diet phase, because you might just want to be beach ready. That doesn't mean you need to get crazy lean, but especially in a contest prep, let's say, where you actually go single digit body fats, body fat, sometimes it's more smart to leave those 50-50 reps in the tank, or even a whole rep in the tank, if that's the case. But at the same time, you need to keep progressing. So what I do recommend for a diet phase is take your volume, start taking your volume lower than your off season, first of all. Not from the beginning, but as soon as the weeks go by, and you'll notice that your recovery is not as good because you're in a calorie deficit now, so you're not primed to grow. And your main goal now is not to grow. You can still grow in a deficit, which is much harder, but your main goal right now is to maintain that hard-earned muscle mass that you gained in the off season or your bulking phase, whatever you want to call it. So to maintain muscle, it's easier to maintain it than to add more, of course, but it's easier to maintain it. You actually need less volume to maintain the same amount of muscle. So with that in mind, you might need to lower the volume down after some weeks that you start to notice your recovery isn't as good, and nail execution and intensity. So you still need to train to failure. Maybe I said about those 50-50 reps, you might not need to do them, but still reach that RIR 0, maybe reps in reserve, that's what RIR means, or even 1, but you still need to relatively train close to failure. And being on a diet phase is not an excuse for you to say, I'm dieting so I'm gonna lose strength, or I'm dieting so my sessions shouldn't be that as hard, or I'm currently 9 weeks out and I'm still progressing in my training, and I've been dieting for 10 weeks. So there's no excuse, up to one point at least, that you cannot keep progressing, but volume is number one that needs to be managed. So take some sets off in the beginning as soon as you witness your recovery not being that as good. yeah, take some sets off, keep the intensity high, and then as long as it goes, the longer you go in a diet phase, then you need to make more and more and more adjustments. I'd say probably in a, I don't know, in the 12-week diet phase, I would suggest you do about like 2 lowerings, like decently big lowerings of your volume, like taking 1 set off on the one lowering of the volume and 1 more set, and just maybe even leaving 1 set only in, especially the big compound movements. That's the way that you can still keep progressing on that weight, getting the numbers up, even that if it's weight or reps, you still keep progressing, but you're not doing as many sets, and you actually find it easier to recover from those sessions than if it stayed exactly the same. That's what happened with me before reducing my training volume. I buried myself in the ground. I couldn't recover from my sessions. I was sluggish all day. I mean, it's part of the process, isn't it? But at the same time, as soon as I fixed that, it was so much better, and still progress kept being made even after that. And to be honest, it is much better now than before. So I wanted really to talk about this subject because it's also based on my experience, and I witnessed that as soon as I got my volume down, everything turned to the better, and I still kept my progress high, and I'm still progressing now, and I will keep progressing for as long as I can. Alright, so the verdict of the video, just to sum it all up: off season you can still go up and up and up and up progressively. Diet phase, take it slow. I mean, put the intensity as high as possible, keep training really hard, as hard as you can, but be mindful of your form, and lower the volume progressively. So overall you do less volume, but you might be able to progress weight wise and set and rep wise, so you still probably might even be able to gain muscle, but on a lower volume, because your intensity is that high. Up to one point. Again, if you're a 7% body fat, don't expect to gain muscle. Expect to maintain it, and if you maintain it, you will be more than happy to maintain it. Trust me, it's more than enough. I hope you learned something today. More videos coming, plenty in mind. Enjoy your day, guys. Thank you so much for watching.